This story begins deep in the wild, where the earth breathes with dust and heat, and every heartbeat is a gamble between life and death. The sun has long set, leaving behind a pale crimson glow that fades into the darkness. Crickets whisper, the wind hums through dry grass, and then, out of nowhere, a desperate cry slices through the night. A lion cub's trembling call echoes across the savannah, high and sharp, like the last plea of a soul lost in the dark. You hear it again, weaker this time, carried by the wind, bouncing between acacia trees. Somewhere out there, something small, something fragile, is fighting for its life. In this unforgiving land, survival is never guaranteed. Every shadow hides hunger, every sound could mean death. But tonight that cry will not go unanswered. From a distance, headlights flicker through the tall grass, an old jeep groaning as it crawls over the rough terrain. Behind the wheel is her, a young wildlife caretaker named Sarah Holt, working deep in the conservation zone. She spent years rescuing wounded animals, but this sound feels different. It's too raw, too human in its sorrow. She slows down, switches off the lights, and steps out, armed with nothing but a tranquilizer rifle, a flashlight, and her will. The cry leads her to a clearing near an ancient acacia tree. The smell of blood fills the air. Her flashlight trembles slightly as it sweeps over the scene. Broken grass, drag marks, a few feathers, signs of a struggle. Then she sees him. A lion, not just any lion, but an adult male, his mane torn and stained with dust, his side slashed open by what looks like a poacher's snare. His breathing is ragged, shallow. And there, curled beside him, is the cub, no older than a few weeks, nudging his father's face, confused, frightened, unwilling to leave. Sarah kneels slowly. The lion's eyes flicker open, golden, fierce, yet filled with pain. For a brief moment, predator and human lock eyes, bound by the same truth. The wild takes, but sometimes it gives. The cub lets out another soft cry and hides behind its father's mane. Sarah knows she can't leave them, not with the scent of blood spreading and scavengers closing in. She sets down her pack, trembling but determined. Her mind races. The lion's wound is deep, infection setting in. Every instinct tells her it's impossible. But then she glances at the cub again, those pleading eyes glistening in the moonlight, and she knows what she must do. So before we dive in, take a moment to like this video, and if this story touches your heart, subscribe to Heroic Rescue Tales. Together, we'll keep the spirit of compassion alive, one rescue at a time. Comment below your favorite animal, and let's see whose courage shines brightest tonight. The lion's breath grows shallow. Sarah readies her tranquilizer dart, whispering to herself, "Stay with me, big guy. Just a little longer." The cub lets out a whimper that cuts deeper than the wind. She aims carefully and fires. The dart hits. For a moment, everything stills. The moon slips behind the clouds, and the savannah holds its breath. But somewhere beyond the acacia, something stirs in the tall grass. The dart settles into the lion's flank with a soft hiss, and for a tense moment, nothing happens. Sarah's heart beats so hard she can hear it in her ears. The lion lets out a low, thunderous growl, a sound that trembles through the ground beneath her boots. His muscles tense, claws digging into the dirt. The cub freezes, torn between fear and instinct. Sarah steps back, her flashlight trembling in her hand. Then, as the tranquilizer takes hold, the great beast's growl softens. His body loosens, and his head lowers gently to the ground. The air seems to exhale with him. Sarah moves quickly. She kneels beside the lion, her breath visible in the cool night air. His wound is worse than she feared, a deep, gaping slash along his ribs, flies already gathering. The metallic scent of blood fills her throat. She rummages through her kit, hands shaking, pulling out antiseptic gauze and sutures. The cub whimpers and presses itself against her leg. She looks down at it, tiny paws, wide golden eyes, and whispers softly, "Don't worry, little one. I've got him. Every minute counts." She cleans the wound, whispering reassurance to a creature that can't understand her words, but somehow feels her intent. The lion's body jerks once, reflexively. Sarah flinches but doesn't stop. The savannah around her is restless. hyenas laughing faintly in the distance, vultures circling high above. Time feels thin, like the night could collapse in on her at any moment. As she works, her flashlight flickers, casting long, swaying shadows. She speaks softly, maybe to calm herself, maybe to remind herself that she's not alone. "You're strong, aren't you? You've made it this far." Her voice catches. The cub curls up beside its father's massive paw, eyes fluttering shut. There's a strange peace in that moment. Predator, prey, and human bound together by something primal. But Sarah knows peace doesn't last long out here. The lion needs fluids, antibiotics, and shelter. Leaving him in the open means certain death. She scans the horizon. The nearest outpost is miles away, her jeep barely holding enough fuel. She makes the choice no one trained her for. She'll bring them both, somehow. She straps a field stretcher beneath the lion, muscles straining as she pulls him inch by inch toward the vehicle. The cub follows closely, mewling softly, as if urging her on. Hours pass. Sweat and dirt streak her face. By the time she loads the lion into the jeep, dawn has begun to touch the horizon, faint streaks of orange bleeding through the grey. The world awakens slowly around her, the calls of distant cranes, the rustle of the grass. But for Sarah, the only sound that matters is the slow, heavy rhythm of the lion's breathing, proof that life still lingers. She wipes her hands, smearing blood and dust across her sleeves. "Hang on, King," she whispers, naming him without even realizing it. "We're not done yet." The cub presses against her boot, watching as she starts the engine. The jeep rattles forward, its headlights cutting through the mist. But behind them in the tall grass, a pair of glinting eyes watches their every move, silent, patient, waiting for night to fall again. The road back to camp feels endless, a twisting trail of dust and shadow. Sarah's jeep rattles over roots and stones, headlights slicing through the pre-dawn haze. The lion lies in the back, motionless except for the shallow rise and fall of his chest. Each breath sounds heavier than the last. The cub sits beside him, pressing its head against his mane, as if trying to lend him strength. Sarah glances in the rearview mirror. She can see their eyes reflecting the dim light, one flickering with fear, the other fading with exhaustion. When she finally reaches her small field clinic, the first rays of sun have crept over the horizon. Golden light spills across the makeshift tent, illuminating the steel tables and medical tools lined neatly beside jars of herbs, bandages, and instruments dulled by use. Sarah jumps from the jeep and throws open the rear door. Her arms ache from the long drive, but she doesn't stop. She drags the lion's stretcher inside, the cub following close, paws silent on the dirt floor. The wound has deepened overnight. Infection is spreading fast. A dark, angry ring of swelling, with a snare cut through skin and muscle. She feels her stomach twist. If she doesn't act now, the lion won't make it past the hour. Her hands move with instinct. IV fluids, antibiotics, oxygen mask. She shaves around the wound, disinfects the area, and begins stitching. Slow, steady, precise. Sweat rolls down her temple. The cub lets out a trembling sound every time she pierces the lion's flesh. "Easy now," she whispers, voice trembling. "You're stronger than this. You've fought worse, haven't you?" She doesn't even realize she's talking to him like an old friend. Hours blur into minutes. At one point, she nearly collapses from fatigue, but the cub's soft cry pulls her back. She finishes the last stitch, ties it, and leans back with a deep exhale. "There," she murmurs. "You're not dying on my watch." The lion's chest rises, slow, then again steadier. Sarah smiles faintly. She prepares a nutrient mixture, feeds the cub with a small bottle, and lets it rest near its father's paw. As the morning heat builds, the savannah outside begins to stir. Herds moving in the distance, birds scattering from the trees. Sarah stands at the flap of her tent watching them, feeling something deep in her chest she hasn't felt in years. Hope. But the wild never stays quiet for long. That evening, as the sun melts into the horizon, the cub suddenly stiffens. Its ears twitch. A growl rumbles low in its throat. Sarah freezes. Then she hears it, faint at first, then closer. The crunch of footsteps in the grass outside her camp. Not the shuffle of animals. the deliberate, heavy step of men. She reaches for her rifle, heart pounding. Through the canvas, she can see shadows, 2 figures, maybe 3, moving slowly toward the tent. Poachers, the same kind who set the snare, the same kind who left the lion to die. She crouches beside the lion's body, whispering urgently, "Stay quiet, little one." Outside, the men stop. One of them murmurs something in a low voice, then laughs, a sound that chills her blood. The lion stirs faintly, his ear twitching. The cub lets out a soft cry before she can cover its mouth. The sound pierces the night air like a knife. The footsteps stop, then turn toward her tent. The flap of the tent stirs, a faint ripple against the warm wind, and Sarah's pulse quickens. The voices outside are closer now, rough and careless, the kind of men who carry rifles not for defense, but for the thrill of killing. Through the thin fabric, she can see the outline of one man holding a flashlight, its beam cutting through the darkness in erratic sweeps. Another follows, dragging something heavy, the clink of metal traps. They're searching for signs of movement, maybe hoping to find the lion they wounded the night before. Sarah's mind races. She checks her tranquilizer rifle, half-loaded, a single dart ready. It won't be enough if there are more than 2 of them. She glances back at the lion. His breathing is shallow but steady. The cub lies pressed against his paw, trembling, eyes wide with fear. The sound of boots on dry earth grows louder. A flashlight beam slips through the seams of the tent, brushing across her face for a second, and she freezes. "Did you see that?" One of the men mutters. "Movement inside. She has seconds to decide. Fight, hide, or flee." Her eyes dart to the back flap of the tent, a small exit she keeps for emergencies. Her jeep is parked nearby, half covered in branches. If she could get the cub out first, maybe she could draw them away from the lion. But leaving him here, unconscious and bleeding, feels like betrayal. Still, if she stays, none of them will survive the night. The flashlight beam moves again, closer now, cutting through the canvas. The zipper starts to slide down. Sarah acts. She scoops the cub into her arms, tucks it under her jacket, and slips through the rear flap into the tall grass. The dry stalks scrape against her legs as she crouches low, moving silently. The cub squirms, but she whispers, "Shh, it's okay, I've got you." Behind her, the tent zipper opens fully. "What the?" One of the poachers grunts. "Blood, look at this." Someone's been patching it up. Sarah's heart pounds so hard it's all she can hear. She edges away, crawling toward the jeep. Every few feet she pauses, listens. The poachers' footsteps are moving around the tent now, circling, searching. One of them curses softly. The lion's gone, or maybe not far. She reaches the jeep, opens the door inch by inch, and slides inside. The cub's small heart races against her chest. She lays him on the passenger seat, hands shaking as she turns the ignition. The engine sputters once, twice, then roars to life. "Hey!" a voice shouts. A gunshot cracks through the night, the sound echoing across the plains. Sarah slams the accelerator. The jeep lunges forward, tires spinning through the dirt. A second shot rings out, grazing the metal frame. The cub yelps. Sarah ducks low, steering wildly through the brush, headlights bouncing over the uneven ground. She doesn't look back, not until she's far beyond the camp, the smoke of her exhaust mixing with the rising dust. Her chest heaves, her hands tremble on the wheel. Behind her, the tent where she left the lion is swallowed by darkness. "I'll come back for you," she whispers through clenched teeth, eyes wet with fear and guilt. "I swear I will." The cub lets out a soft, mournful cry, and for a moment it feels like the entire savannah is crying with it, the grass whispering, the wind howling, the stars watching in silence. But deep in the tall grass she left behind, the lion stirs. His eyes flicker open, catching the faintest glint of moonlight, and a low growl rumbles in his throat. The wounded king is not done yet. The savannah breathes differently after loss. Weeks pass like ghosts, silent, endless, and heavy. Sarah returns with the rangers the next morning, but the tent lies shredded, the ground torn apart by claw marks and struggle. Blood trails vanish into the tall grass, swallowed by the wilderness. The lion she called king is gone. Whether he escaped or was taken, no one knows. For days she searches. She follows tracks half erased by wind, footprints leading nowhere, scattered bones that tell no story. Each sunset brings the same ache, an emptiness that the cub's soft cries only deepen. She keeps him with her, nursing him on warm milk and medicine, watching him grow stronger as her own hope fades. She names him Nuru, meaning light, for he becomes the only brightness in her long nights. But the wild moves on. Seasons shift, storms rise and fade. Grass grows where blood once stained the soil. The snare marks vanish beneath new roots. And slowly, painfully, Sarah learns to live again. She builds a new camp deeper in the reserve. Stronger fences, solar lamps, new medical stations for wounded animals. Every rescued life is a reminder of what was lost and what still might return. Years roll by, 10 of them. The world outside changes. New rangers join, new technologies arrive, but Sarah remains. Her hair grows streaked with silver, her hands lined from sun and time. Yet every dawn she looks toward the same horizon, where the acacia stands alone, the place she first heard the cubs cry. She still leaves food offerings nearby sometimes, a quiet ritual only she understands. For you, she whispers to the wind, and for him. Nuru grows into a magnificent lion, golden mane, fierce eyes, but a gentleness rare among his kind. He roams the reserve freely, never straying too far from her camp. Some nights she hears his roar in the distance, not one of hunger, but of loyalty, echoing through the plains like a memory reborn. Then one stormy evening the balance shifts. Thunder rolls over the savannah and rain lashes the earth. Sarah sits by her window, sipping tea, when the radio crackles to life. Ranger Ethan's voice cuts through the static, tense, urgent. "Sarah, you might want to see this. We've found tracks. Big ones, a male. But there's something else. Smaller prints beside them, cubs." Her cup slips from her hand, shattering on the floor. She stands frozen, heart thundering louder than the rain. "Cubs," she repeats. "That's right," Ethan says. "But you should see the size of the male. Looks like something out of legend." Sarah rushes to the jeep, Nuru padding behind her. The storm howls, lightning slicing the night. As they drive through the muddy plains, she can't shake the feeling building in her chest. A pull, deep and primal, drawing her towards something she has both longed for and feared for 10 years. They reach the old acacia tree. The rain slows, the air thick with silence. The rangers shine their lights over the grass, and there, half buried in the mud, are the tracks. Massive, deliberate, unmistakable. The same pattern she memorized years ago when she treated his wounds. The wounded king has returned, but this time he is not alone. From somewhere beyond the rain-soaked horizon, a deep, rolling roar answers the thunder, ancient, commanding, and hauntingly familiar. The sound carries through the night like a promise reborn. Sarah grips the steering wheel, breath trembling. "It can't be," she whispers. But deep down she knows. The wild never forgets a debt of kindness. The storm fades to a restless hush, that eerie silence that comes after the earth has wept. The scent of wet soil and crushed grass fills the air as Sarah steps out of the jeep. Her flashlight flickers against the vast, dark horizon. Nuru follows close, his golden mane damp, his eyes glinting with alertness. Every instinct in him is awake, every muscle tense. The savannah around them feels alive with unseen movement. Sarah kneels beside the massive paw prints, half filled with rainwater. She brushes her hand over them, tracing the edges with trembling fingers. "It's him," she breathes. The shape, the size, even the faint drag on the left side, the same injury that once threatened his life. King. 10 years gone, and yet the land itself remembers his stride. "Sarah," Ethan murmurs behind her, scanning the grass with his rifle light. "We should get back before the roads flood again." But she doesn't move. She stands, rain dripping from her hair, eyes fixed on the distant line of trees. Something out there calls to her, not in sound, but in the heavy stillness between the thunder's echoes. "He's close," she whispers. "I can feel it." Then it happens. A low growl rolls through the night, faint at first, then rising, deepening, until it becomes a full roar that shakes the ground beneath their feet. It's not a sound of warning but of presence, the unmistakable voice of a king reclaiming his throne. Nuru stiffens, his mane bristling. He responds instinctively with his own call, a younger, echoing roar that vibrates through the storm-soaked air. The two sounds meet and merge, father and son, past and present, crossing the space between them. Sarah's eyes widen. He's answering him. Another roar, closer this time. Then movement. The grass parts in the distance, swaying like waves. Shapes emerge, not one but several. A lioness first, cautious but strong, leading two small cubs who cling close to her legs. Behind them, a shadow larger than all the rest rises. His mane is darker now, streaked with age and stormlight, his scars still faintly visible. But his eyes, those golden eyes, burn the same. King, Sarah can't breathe. The world narrows until all she can see is the lion, walking toward her through the misting rain, his pride following close. Ethan lowers his rifle, whispering, "Holy hell!" Nuru steps forward, low and wary, but not hostile. The air between them hums with recognition, two lions staring into each other's souls, the old bloodline rediscovered. The lioness lets out a low rumble, protective, but King flicks his tail once, a signal of calm. He takes another step forward, then another, until the distance between them is swallowed by rain and memory. Sarah whispers, "You came back." Her voice cracks on the words. The lion pauses just a few feet away. Lightning flashes, illuminating him in perfect, terrible beauty, his mane dripping with rain, his scars glistening silver in the light. He looks at her, not like a beast, but like something ancient, aware. Then he does something no one expects. He lowers his head. It's not submission, it's recognition. Sarah's eyes fill with tears. "You remember," she says softly. "You remember that night?" The cubs behind him peek curiously at her, small and wide-eyed. One of them, braver than the rest, pads forward and lets out a faint mewl. Sarah kneels, extending her hand slowly. The cub sniffs her fingers, then presses its tiny head into her palm. For a moment the years collapse, the memory of another cub, a desperate cry, a night filled with blood and rain. The lioness watches silently, and King lets out a low, rumbling purr, a sound of peace, not threat. The storm has finally broken, but just as the world seems to quiet, a gunshot cracks through the air. Ethan shouts, "Down!" as a bullet tears through the grass near the pride. The cubs scatter, the lioness roars, and King turns, eyes burning, muscles tensing for battle. Sarah dives for cover, heart pounding. In the distance, through the smoke of the rain, a dark truck's headlights glint. The poachers have returned. The silence after the gunshot is heavier than the thunder that came before it. Sarah lies in the wet grass, heart hammering, breath shallow. The scent of gunpowder burns in the air, mingling with the petrichor of rain-soaked soil. Nuru stands over her protectively, mane bristling, fangs bared in the dim light. His eyes lock on the truck in the distance, headlights flickering like the eyes of a beast born of smoke and greed. "Sarah, are you okay?" Ethan yells, ducking behind the jeep as another shot cracks through the air, splintering the ground inches from his leg. "I'm fine," she shouts back, crawling toward cover. "They're after him. They want the pride." The lions have scattered. The lioness is leading her cubs toward the cover of the acacias, her low growls urging them faster. King stands firm, massive, unmoving, eyes fixed on the figures emerging from the truck. Two men, rifles slung, the same poachers she escaped from all those years ago. "Don't move," one of them shouts, voice slicing through the rain. "Back away from the animals." Sarah freezes. She knows what they want. The pelt, the mane, the trophies that fetch a fortune in the black market. But this time, she isn't the frightened rescuer from before. She's seen what compassion can do. And she's not running. King takes a step forward, muscles rippling beneath his soaked coat. The poachers flinch. One raises his gun. "Don't!" Sarah screams. But it's too late. The muzzle flashes. The sound shatters the night. The bullet whistles past, grazing King's shoulder. He roars, a thunderous primal sound that shakes the trees and stops even the rain for a heartbeat. It's not rage alone, it's defiance, memory, and vengeance all in one voice. The cubs cry from the brush. Nuru answers with a bellowing roar, charging toward the truck with explosive speed. Sarah leaps to her feet, waving frantically. "No, Nuru, stop!" But it's instinct now. Blood calling to blood. King follows, charging through the grass, a blur of golden fury. The poachers panic. One scrambles back into the vehicle. The other fires blindly, stumbling in the mud. Nuru swipes. The gun clatters away. The man screams and flees toward the open field. King halts just before striking, his roar echoing in the man's wake, a warning to all who would harm his kin. Ethan runs to Sarah, grabbing her arm. "We have to move them, now, before backup arrives." But she's frozen, staring at King. The lion turns back to her, limping slightly from the graze, and for a moment their eyes meet again through the fading rain. His chest heaves. His mane drips crimson at the edges. Yet there's no hate there, only trust. A silent understanding. Sarah steps closer, trembling, ignoring Ethan's warnings. The lion stands tall, towering over her, his cubs peeking from behind the acacia. Slowly, she kneels, the same way she did 10 years ago, and whispers, "It's okay. You're safe now." The wind moves gently through the grass. The lion lowers his head once more, brushing his muzzle against her shoulder in a gesture so gentle it nearly breaks her. The cubs emerge from hiding, circling around, sniffing curiously. Nuru returns, panting, his mane wet and eyes wild. The two males face each other again, father and son, and this time there's no fear, no challenge, only acknowledgement. A soft rumble passes between them, a greeting, a bond renewed. The lioness joins, her cubs pressing close to the great king's legs. The storm clouds begin to break above, revealing a pale strip of dawn on the horizon. Ethan lowers his weapon, eyes wide in disbelief. "I've worked in the wild 20 years, and I've never seen anything like this." Sarah smiles faintly, tears blending with the rain. "You're not supposed to," she murmurs. "Some moments belong only to the heart." But even as the dawn light grows, she knows it's not over. The poachers have fled, but they'll be back. And this time they'll bring more. For now, though, under the rising sun, the pride stands united. One family, one story reborn. The cubs nuzzle the woman who once saved their bloodline, and in their eyes she sees something more powerful than fear. Recognition. The lion roars again, not a roar of war, but of return. It rolls over the plains, through the wet grass, over the acacia tree where it all began. And for the first time in 10 years, Sarah feels the wild exhale in peace. But the horizon holds movement, faint shapes, dark silhouettes coming closer. The fight for their freedom is far from over. Dawn spills across the plains like liquid gold, washing away the storm's shadow. The earth glistens, breathing steam, alive again after the night's chaos. The savannah seems to hold its breath, as if it too waits to see what will happen next. Sarah stands amid the tall grass, her heart still pounding, rain and tears mingling on her face. Before her the pride gathers, King, his lioness, their cubs, and Nuru, the young lion she raised from that desperate cry a decade ago. The air hums with quiet reverence. King limps closer, his paw pressing into the mud with deliberate slowness. His eyes, those golden, ageless eyes, lock on Sarah's once more. For a long, silent moment, the world disappears. No sound of birds, no wind, just her and him. The survivor and the savior. Sarah kneels instinctively. She remembers that night, the blood, the fear, the hopelessness, and now she's seeing what no human ever expects. Gratitude, alive and breathing in front of her. King stops within reach, lowering his head so that his mane brushes her hands. The warmth of him radiates through her skin. A deep, rumbling purr vibrates through the air, not of dominance or warning, but of recognition and peace. Then something extraordinary happens. One of the cubs, small, curious, brave, pads forward through the dew-drenched grass. Its eyes gleam like amber sunlight. Sarah hesitates, tears welling as it steps closer and presses its tiny head against her palm. She can feel its heartbeat, quick, alive, full of innocence. The lioness watches quietly but does not intervene. In that single gesture, generations are bound together. the saved and the born, linked through an act of compassion that transcended fear and time itself. Nuru approaches next, brushing against Sarah's shoulder, his tail flicking with familiarity. King turns to his son, then back to her, as if presenting his family, a silent offering, a thank you spoken without words. She whispers softly, "You remembered. You came back to show me." Her voice trembles as she continues, "I didn't save you to be remembered. I just couldn't let you die." King's gaze holds hers, deep and ancient. Then he lifts his head and lets out a low, powerful roar, not one of warning but of triumph, of unity. His lioness joins him, then Nuru, and finally the cubs, a chorus of life echoing across the waking plains. The sound rolls across the horizon, shaking the morning air, announcing not victory, but balance restored. Ethan lowers his camera slowly, awe freezing him in place. "They're thanking you," he whispers. Sarah doesn't respond. Her throat tightens. Instead, she just smiles, small, trembling, radiant. "No," she whispers. "They're thanking life." The pride lingers for a few minutes longer. King circles her once, brushing his massive shoulder against her knee, a final gesture of connection, before turning toward the open plain. The lioness calls softly, the cubs respond, and together they begin to move away. The grass parts around them like waves around a ship. Nuru stays behind for one last look. Sarah meets his eyes, whispering, "Go on, my boy. This is where you belong." He hesitates, then roars once, short, clear, and full of life, before running to join his bloodline. As the pride fades into the horizon, the morning wind rises, soft and warm, carrying with it a sound Sarah hasn't heard in years. Peace. The acacia tree sways gently nearby, its branches glistening with rain, its roots deep in the soil that has witnessed everything: pain, courage, reunion. Ethan walks up behind her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You realize what you've done?" he murmurs. "You didn't just save a lion, you saved a legacy." Sarah looks toward the horizon, where the last glint of golden fur vanishes into the grass. "No," she says softly, "I just reminded the wild that kindness never dies." The savannah breathes again, alive with the promise of new beginnings. But as the camera pans over the endless fields, the wind carries a faint echo, the lion's roar fading into the distance like a song of gratitude written on the heart of the earth itself. Yet somewhere, beyond the shimmering heat of the horizon, another roar answers, a reminder that the story of the wild never truly ends. Days pass, and the savannah begins to heal. The scars left by storm and blood fade under the golden sun. The air carries a softer rhythm now, the hum of insects, the rustle of wind through grass, and the distant calls of animals reclaiming their peace. Life, as it always does, moves forward. Yet for Sarah, something deep within her has changed forever. She stands beneath the same acacia tree where this story began 10 long years ago. The bark still bears faint claw marks from that night. King's struggle to survive, a memory carved into living wood. The grass here grows taller now, greener. The earth, once stained with pain, now hums with quiet strength. She kneels, brushing her fingers across the soil, and whispers, "You made it home, old friend." From the distance comes a sound that sends warmth through her chest, the faint, powerful roar of a lion echoing over the plains. It's far away, but she knows that voice. It's King. His pride has settled beyond the eastern ridge, where the land rises toward the hills. Rangers have spotted them a few times. Healthy, strong, thriving. His cubs are growing fast, learning to hunt under his watchful eyes. And among them Nuru visits often. Though he was raised by humans, the wild has claimed him again, as it was always meant to. Yet each time he passes near camp, he pauses. For a heartbeat, he looks toward Sarah's cabin, as if remembering the woman who gave him his first breath of hope. Then he turns away, returning to the world he was born to rule. Sarah smiles at the thought. The savannah is alive again, teeming with movement, songs, and color. The same land that once tested her with fear now rewards her with grace. She spends her days treating orphaned cubs, injured gazelles, and frightened pups. Each rescue, each healed life, feels like a whisper from the past. King's spirit guiding her hands, reminding her why she's here. One evening, as the sun bleeds orange across the horizon, she steps outside her hut and watches the plains shimmer under twilight. The wind moves through the grass like the breath of something ancient. A soft sound rises, distant but unmistakable. The roar again. She closes her eyes and listens. It's not sorrowful this time. It's not calling for help. It's a song of presence, of balance. The circle is complete, she murmurs. What was broken has found its way home. She walks toward the acacia tree one last time, her silhouette outlined by the fading sun. In her hand, she carries a single lion's tooth, one that had fallen from King's mouth years ago during treatment, kept ever since as a token of the bond they shared. She digs gently at the base of the tree and buries it beneath the roots. For you, she whispers, voice trembling, for everything you gave back. The sky darkens, painted with violet and gold. Fireflies begin to spark in the grass. Somewhere beyond the horizon, King's pride settles for the night. The cubs yawn, the lioness rests, and the great lion himself watches over them, the guardian of his world, no longer wounded, no longer lost. Sarah exhales, her heart light. The world feels vast and at peace. The wild, untamed and eternal hums in harmony once more. And as the camera pulls back, the woman beneath the tree, the endless golden fields, the fading roar in the distance, her voice soft and steady, carries through the wind. The danger has passed, peace has returned, and the savannah rests once more. The lion who once lay dying beneath this very tree now walks the land as a father, a king, and a living testament that compassion leaves a mark deeper than any wound. She turns toward the horizon where the last light lingers, a single tear tracing her cheek, not of sorrow, but of fulfillment. Kindness echoes, even in the wild. The music swells, gentle strings, soft drums, the whisper of wind through grass, as the screen fades slowly to black. The sun dips below the horizon, and the world exhales. The day's golden blaze melts into a wash of violet and silver. The long grass ripples like waves under the first touch of night wind. Cicadas begin their quiet song, and somewhere in the distance an owl calls, soft, solemn, eternal. Sarah sits by the campfire, her face lit by the flickering glow. The warmth touches her skin, but her eyes are on the darkness beyond, where the plains stretch out forever. Out there beneath a sky of endless stars, the pride rests. King, the lion she once cradled between life and death, now lies beneath the acacia with his family, his cubs nestled against him, his breathing slow and steady. The savannah, once filled with fear and struggle, now hums with peace. She closes her eyes, listening. In the stillness, she hears echoes, the cubs' cry from that night so long ago, the thunder of hooves, the whisper of rain, her own desperate heartbeat. But the echoes fade gently like a song coming to rest. In their place comes something softer, the rhythmic breath of the earth itself, calm and whole. Ethan approaches quietly, holding 2 cups of tea. "You're still out here," he says, settling beside her. Sarah smiles faintly. "How could I sleep after everything?" "It feels like the savannah's finally breathing again." He nods. "You know, there are some stories that don't belong in books or cameras. They live out here, in the wind, in the dirt, in the things we can't explain." She looks toward the acacia one last time. Lightning bugs drift lazily around its branches, tiny sparks of gold against the night. "He came back," she whispers. After 10 years, he still remembered. Ethan follows her gaze, silent. "Maybe that's what it's all about," she says softly. "Not power, not fear, but memory. The kind that doesn't fade, the kind that connects us all." The wind shifts, carrying with it a faint sound, a low, distant rumble that rolls across the plains. Not thunder, a roar, soft, fading, but full of life. Sarah closes her eyes, a smile tugging at her lips. "Good night, King," she whispers. The fire crackles, sparks rising into the air like tiny stars, joining their kin above. The night deepens. The lion's rest, the woman who once saved their world, finally feels the peace she had spent her life giving to others. And as the screen fades to the pale silver of moonlight over the savannah, a final whisper carries through the darkness. The danger has passed, peace has returned, and the savannah rests once more.